Hello everyone, welcome to Katharine's Creatures. This is a series where we're going to talk a little bit about and touch base upon various mythological beasts, beings, and the like pulled from lore worldwide. And I always like to preface by saying that I am not a linguist, so I do apologize in advance if I mispronounce anything. And today I wanted to talk about a particular creature that was recommended. And technically I'm actually talking about two creatures. One was the inspiration, theoretically, as far as we know, to the other. But the first one I'm going to talk about is the Ogopogo. And Ogopogo is this kind of water monster, particularly a lake monster from the Okanagan Lake, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, in British Columbia in Canada. And of course this means it comes from Canadian folklore. Particularly there is the idea is that it actually originated from other folklore that stems from the First Nations of that area and or worldwide or widespread concepts of just general water monsters in folklore motifs. So the Ogopogo is like a lot of water creatures, water monsters that I see, in the sense that in its shape, it's depicted typically as this elongated water creature. It exists in the largest of the five kind of almost fjord-like lakes in the Okanagan Valley. And so it takes its name from that particular lake in which it is expected or suspected that it exists and lives in. And this serpentine creature, like I said, very elongated body, serpentine creature, it's described having a dark flesh or dark skin with a body that is described as being thicker than a telephone pole and up to about 15 meters in length. So again, this long serpentine, almost sea serpent-like creature. It's also said to be very fast, so extremely fast, which does help it to get certain victims, and we'll talk about some of that in a moment. And it's also thought that its long tail helps propel it really quickly through the water, as well as the fact that it's, again, when it draws attention to my mind, the idea of a sea serpent swims with that undulating fashion in the water, so it does fall into that kind of aquatic sea serpent-like or sea monster-like category. Now, there are certain people that think or try to compare it to various either extinct or other cryptid creatures, including, let me see if I get it correctly, the Cerberus, which is supposedly a cryptid in the area, and then the extinct Basilosaurus. And so again, other creatures that have very similar forms and functions. Now, it's kind of got its name from actual poems of a period. Now, the first poem that I think used its name was in 1924, and there's again a little poem, a little song about it, though there are even earlier references to the creature in 1912, again trying to make sure I have all my dates correctly, and another different poem. Now, the creature Ogopogo, so wow, I'm saying Saurus now. See, I'm getting myself tongue-tied. Ogopogo is shortened in this kind of pet name called Augie. So that one's easier to remember for many people who are unfamiliar with Ogopogo. And there are also thought to be smaller versions of it, and again, not sure if these are thought to be young or just a smaller variation of the Ogopogo, and those are called Ogopups. Cute little name, I know. Now, going back to where did the Ogopogo come from? Well, earlier, before the 1920s and 1912, there was lore that stems all the way back to, again, a variety of the First Nations, so the native people of the area. And in their particular culture, they had a creature that had a name called Naitaka, and that essentially translates to water demon, possibly water god, or the sacred creature of the water, depending on the variation of translation. And again, it was this animal that was kind of feared and revered. And it was because of that, the natives populations would sacrifice small animals before they ever entered that water source in order to more or less appease Naitaka. Again, hopefully pronouncing these things correctly. And there is a particular story where a visiting chieftain did not do the appropriate sacrifices. So when he was canoeing across the water, the Naitaka came up really fast from the water and ended up, they was, I guess, described as sucking in, so causing this kind of water phenomenon, but sucking down the canoe along with all the people riding in it and essentially drowning them at the bottom of this lake. Now, also, there are other discussions about how the earlier creature, the Naitaka, had the ability to control storms and use those to help kill other victims. So again, this powerful entity that was feared and revered in the earlier stories. There are also variations of the creature where instead of being a real animal, it was thought of more like a spirit-like entity. But going to the little more modernized version, the Ogopogo, fun one to say, because Ogopogo is kind of labeled as a cryptid, where we've never proven this thing exists in any way that can affirm it, but we cannot either deny it either. So falling into this kind of cryptid category, though there have been a variety of sightings of the Ogopogo, some of the earlier ones dating from 1872 all the way to June 2024. So fairly recently, there have been people who have claimed to see it in various sightings. If you're interested in any of those more details, there is a lot of material around on various websites about that. There also have been 3 notable searches for the Ogopogo within the lake, trying to, again, prove its existence. The first one was that I've noted was 2000. There was another in 2009, and the most recent was 2023. So again, fairly recent, that people are still searching to see if they can have viable proof that the Ogopogo exists. Now, if you have any questions about this or anything else, please reach out to me on any of my social media. And until next time, everyone, skål.